How's it going? Armagini here, welcome to another video. This time I'm going to cover some techniques for dealing with hostile bunkers and share some tips for taking out turrets. I'll get this one out of the way first. Arguably the easiest and safest way to get into a hostile bunker is by landing your ship around 1600 meters away from the closest turret and going the rest of the way on foot or in a ground vehicle. This method is pretty self-explanatory and has been pretty reliable, but being out in the open so far away from your ship can be dangerous. It's also kind of annoying right now that you have to go somewhere else to load up a vehicle if you want to go that route. I know that's going to change in the future, but for right now, that's what we have to deal with. And let's not forget, the leading cause of death for citizens of the verse is elevators and tripping over themselves. So I explored some other options. And honestly, I just wanted to see those damn turrets explode. The result of my pyromania is that I learned some things interesting about turrets and bunkers that I didn't know before, and maybe you'll find them useful too. If you fancy yourself as an okay pilot, this is a fun and effective way to shorten the distance that you have to hoof it. I only really recommend this in smaller ships though, as it does involve hiding. This is another passive technique, so sorry, no fireworks just yet. First, I always like to buzz the bunker low and fast, just to get an idea of what I'm dealing with. I want all the turrets to spawn so that I can see the general layout and how many there are. If I can use the terrain to my advantage, then I'll slow down a little bit and try and do terrain masking instead of just relying purely on speed. Here I have a nice hill to hide behind, but it quickly opens up into a close-in cliff, which leaves me pretty exposed. I try to keep my lateral speed up while getting a look at the bunker. Once I see an area that I can hide my ship in and that I can walk up, I drop down. I was a little late on the space break there and definitely scratched the paint, but we're okay. Now I put down the gear to get the ship into vector hold mode. Check out my last video if you haven't already for more on that mode. This makes it super easy to glide along just above the surface while staying below the ridge line so the turrets can't shoot at me. Now I just creep it on in until I run out of hillside. In this case, the terrain's pretty flat, so there's not too much ground to be gained, but a slow-moving ship is still faster than running, especially if there's a storm. Here we get to within about 380 meters of the bunker. Another happy landing. Time to blow something up. I've narrowed it down to two main things that make dealing with turrets so difficult. The first is the lack of PIP, and the second is how the turrets respawn. Let's start with the PIP. If you didn't know, PIP stands for Predicted Impact Point, and it's how you hit anything with anything when there's relative movement involved. When you're in range of a target, the PIP normally appears as that little square that you use in either League or Lag mode to put your rounds on a predictive intercept path with your target. Right now, when you target a turret, you don't get that at all. All you get is the HUD symbology for the target itself. You can still use this to aim, but it's only really reliable if your ship is completely motionless, or if you're flying directly at the target. Unfortunately, this works both ways, and you'll get shot down in a heartbeat if you do this while within range of a target. The good news is that I think the PIP still exists, you just can't see it. While you circle a turret trying desperately to land hits, you'll notice that as you try and walk your shots onto the target, you'll occasionally have bursts of Luke Skywalker level accuracy. I think this is the fixed assist kicking in as you line up on that invisible PIP. Fixed assist works by nudging the rounds towards the target, and this gave me an idea. If fixed assist works, auto gimbals are probably awesome. So I loaded up my Super Hornet with fully gimbaled laser repeaters and charged into battle once again for science. For killing turrets with a fighter, this is the way. You need to fly evasively, so I keep my strafe speed up and get aimed so that my shots are landing roughly in the vicinity of the target. You can see the auto gimbals lock on to an imaginary point that's offset from the target fixed to the ground. I just found the PIP. Now all I have to do is keep everything centered and keep moving so that I don't get schwacked. If you need to take a break to let your shields recharge, try and get out to 1,600 meters, but don't go past 1,800. This can make the turrets respawn. On that beautiful segue, let's talk about turret respawning while I finish off this bunker. There seems to be two different points at which turrets will spawn. First at around 1,800, 1,700 meters, and the other at 500 meters. The further out spawn point appears to be based on when you detect the targets. It's hard to tell if there's an exact predetermined range when they initially spawn, or if it's just that they spawn right when you detect them. Either way, once you see the icons, you know the turrets are there. The second spawn trigger is a little more tricky. When a bunker has an active mission, there's a trigger point at 500 meters and new turrets will spawn as soon as you cross that threshold. This does not seem to be the case when there's no active mission, and it doesn't matter whose mission is active. It's also worth noting that it's the player character that triggers the turret spawn, whether they're in a ship or not. There is a caveat to the 500 meter rule that you can actually take advantage of. I think that's actually what's happening during this engagement, as the turrets are not respawning every time I cross that 500 meter line. I'll explain my theory behind this in the next section. Pro tip: don't fly into the ground. My leading theory for why the turrets don't respawn sometimes is that they won't when there's somebody already in the bubble. I found out after the fact that in that last engagement there was actually a player inside the bunker the whole time. For my testing, this seems to hold true, and you can use it to your advantage. It's a great way to practice your Dropship Pilot skills. Get in fast and low, space brake like a mother, and get that player out the door. Once they're out, take off and get out of there. Having that player on the ground next to the turret should stop the turrets from respawning whenever you come inside 500 meters. If your guy on the ground has a railgun, he can help out too. Just don't even bother with a grenade launcher. I dropped 48 grenades on this turret and it didn't do anything. Once you've given your ship a chance to take a breather and for the shields to come back, you can come back in and kill those turrets. But Armor Genie, I hear you say, I'm a gunship pilot and can't fly fighters for shit. Well, I do have two techniques for you, but unfortunately my footage got corrupted, so I'm gonna have to redo it. Also, this video is getting pretty long, so if you're interested in seeing those, let me know in the comments and I'll make a part 2. I'll give you a hint though, one's called the Sniper and one's called the Ghost Ship. Thanks for watching and thank you so much for all the love from the last video. I really appreciate it and hopefully there'll be a lot more to come. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already and I'll see you on the next one. See ya!